Hey everyone, Cadian Sergeant Steele here, and today I want to talk to you about infantry squads. So let's talk about what I consider the legacy unit of the Astra Militarum infantry, and that is the infantry squad. So this datasheet is based upon the units that used to be sold by Games Workshop. You can technically still build these from the new Cadian kit if you want to. You could build them from the Cadian Command Squad plus the infantry kit, but it's really meant to represent the former Cadian infantry shock troop kit, the one pre-2022, the Valhallans, the Vestroyans, the Praetorians, the Mordians, right? All the various regiments that we used to have in the Astra Militarum. So that's why today, when I'm talking about this unit, I've brought out all three regiments that I currently have fully painted, but in the older models before the Cadian upgrade kits. So that's what you see here. Really love these models, and really, if you still have these models, this is a good data sheet to use. So let's dive into it. It's going to be the same unit profiles, everything else. Movement 6, toughness 3, 5 up save, 1 wound each, leadership 7 with 2 objective control, with one difference. If you have a heavy weapons team, right, those are 2 wounds apiece, OC 4. So it's as if you had 2 models, right? So this way you still have the same number of wounds and the same number of objective control in your squad. And if you add a heavy weapons team, you take away 2 las gunners and replace them with a heavy weapons team. Simple enough, right? Take away 2 models, you add another model that's equal in wounds and objective control, but you get access to heavy weapons. Now, speaking of which, let's talk about Wargear, because that's what makes this unit special in addition to its unit ability. So Wargear wise, yes, they can take heavy weapons. This is how we get heavy weapons into your infantry squads without taking a heavy weapons squad itself. You can take heavy bolters, you can take mortars, you can take las cannons, you can take auto cannons. There's really a lot of different heavy weapons, and what it is for every 10 models, you can take away 2 and add in a heavy weapon. So if you had 20 models in a squad, you could have 2 heavy weapons. That gets pretty cool, and that allows you to be able to kind of shield your heavy weapons, right? Because now, for your opponent, if they want to get rid of your heavy weapons, your las cannons, your heavy bolters, your mortars, they have to take out, you could leave the heavy weapons as the last thing in, and they would have to delete all the other models before getting to your heavy weapons, if that's the way you want to run it. It's a great way to get those in there and to make it more resilient. That's my issue with heavy weapon squads, is I think they just disappear instantly as soon as your opponent sees them. So you get a heavy weapon. You can also take 1 special weapon for every 10 models, and this is also pretty versatile. I'm showing here plasma guns, right? But you could do Melta, you could do flamers, you could do grenade launchers, and something you might not have expected, you can do sniper rifles. This is one of the few ways we can still get sniper rifles. And I'm glad that Games Workshop has decided to respect the old kits and still allow for that to be an option. This is nothing broken though, okay? You get 1 special weapon for every 10 models. So that means at max, you can have 2 special weapons in a 20-man squad. That's less than Krieg, that's less than Cadians, that's more than Cadian, but it's not game-breaking. It's your heavy weapons that really sets this unit apart, not counting access to sniper rifles, right? So this is kind of a neat thing that you can do, and just sprinkle in whatever flavor you want from these old kits. If you haven't seen the Vestroyans used to have these beautiful sniper models, and so that might be a cool thing. If you have a bunch of the old metal Cadian, they also had really cool snipers, and so did the Cadians. In fact, here's one of the old metal snipers here from the Cadians. And this is one I kit bashed right before they created the new kit and got rid of the old one. So lots of cool ways for you to celebrate your special weapons. Other war gear they have is, of course, you can take a Voxcaster for every 10 models. All right, same as all the other Astra Militarum stuff. On your sergeants, you can take, for melee weapons, chain swords or power weapons. So that's pretty cool. So you can do your power sword and stuff. You can also do a las pistol, a bolt pistol, a plasma pistol, or a bolt gun. So for those of us who spent painstaking hours kit bashing bolt guns onto our sergeants, this is how we can still use it. Now, a good thing to note about the bolt gun, for those who may be unfamiliar, right? Because it's not a regular option unless you're taking characters for Cadians right now, right? The bolt gun is a rapid fire weapon. It's rapid fire one shot. That means it works with first rank fire, second rank fire, and other kinds of buffs that impact rapid fire weapons. So just keep that in mind. It's a little bit of an outlier, but it is something that you can do. And if you do overlapping fields of fire, you could give it AP -1 with strength 4. So not bad. Not a kind of, not a bad option for your weapons, especially to have on your sergeant and be able to have 24-inch range, the same as all your other troops. And this way you can get those extra shots in on your rapid fire. Don't forget with your Voxcasters, if you use a stratagem on them, on a 5-up, you get your command point back. If you have an officer within 6 inches, you add 1 to that roll. So on a 4-up, you could get a command point back. So these could regenerate command points. If you're not taking Leontis and you've not already generated your command point that turn, don't forget your Voxcaster is a great way to be able to do that if you're spending your stratagems on your infantry squads. Let's talk about what makes this unit special other than the heavy weapons, and that is their ability, Defenders of Humanity. So each time a ranged attack targets this unit, if this unit is within range of an objective marker you control, so you do have to control it, models in this unit have the benefit of cover against the attack. So it's this, I love this. This is so narratively fun. It's as if you're dug in on an objective marker, right? You've got your trench tool out, you've dug yourself a little crater, or maybe it's been blown up already and you're just diving into it. And then you're defending that spot and you gain the benefit of cover, even if it's not in terrain. So that does make this unit a little more resilient. So then if you give them the take cover order, that means if they're on an objective marker and you control it, you'll have a 3-up armor save. Not bad for not spending any command points whatsoever. And it does make this a fairly resilient unit. They're going to be able to stick around when other infantry units, you might have to spend more command points, or you might have to do more tricks or get them in terrain in order for them to be as resilient, right? You may have to use the go to ground stratagem, you may have to use take cover order and other things to be able to buff them up, or maybe put a bunch of characters with them to give them invuln saves and feel no pains and stuff. But these, just with 1 order, they could have a 3-up save. Keep that in mind too, because that means your heavy weapons teams have a 3-up save, and they're 2 wounds each, and they're going to stick around a little longer, which is a great option to have. Okay, so that's what makes them unique. Let's talk about strategies. I do want to start out with synergies real quick and things that you could do. 1, don't forget the Cadian Castellan can lead infantry squads. So that does give you the ability to fall back and shoot, and gives you sustained hits 1. Really cool buffs for a unit like this, especially if you have heavy bolters or plasma or mortars. It could be a really great option for you to be able to do that. The other unit that you can do is, of course, a platoon command squad or Leontis. So you could, I'm using older models here just to make a point. They're really cool, and I just want to show them off. I have a huge collection of older models. And yes, this is Color Sergeant Kell. Because he never leaves my cabinet, and he deserves to be shown off too. So you can take a platoon command squad, and this allows you to use stratagems on them even though they are battle shocked. That could be really critical. You also get more special weapons options in your platoon command squad, your master Vox for 24-inch order range, +1 OC from the banner. Some really good buffs that you kind of get out of this, and so great to kind of have them and be able to pair them as leaders with your infantry squads as well. So don't forget that. And let's talk about kind of the way I might also pair them. So if you don't want to run them in 20-man squads, which is the way I love to run my infantry, but if you don't want to do that, you could do a Chimera. And the reason you might want to do that, Chimera does have firing deck. And so that means 2 models can shoot out of the back hatch. So with that synergy, you could take one of your special weapons like a heavy bolter or a las cannon, plus a plasma gun or a melt-a-gun, and fire it out of the back hatch at the enemy, keeping your infantry unit safe. And then essentially it's like the Chimera, has, right, 3 heavy bolters and a melta gun or a plasma gun suddenly. And that's pretty cool. That's a kind of neat thing you can do and just drive around, keep them safe, and then disembark them onto an objective. They get their +1 to their save, their benefit of cover on an objective, and they were safe getting there. So the Chimera is a great synergy also. Of course, you'd have to have 10-man squads, and then you could still put a Castellan with them in order to give them the ability to fall back and shoot sustained hits 1, which is really great. Now, it wouldn't give you that while in the Chimera, remember, because the Castellan is not on the table, technically. It's as if the Chimera was shooting. So that's how the rules for firing deck work. It's as if the vehicle is shooting, and the Castellan will not buff the Chimera while embarked inside of it. So you won't get your sustained hits 1, you won't get your fallback and shoot, but you will after you disembark. So I do recommend a Chimera, great option. So how would I really run these? What would I do? Chimera's one option. Definitely think about your character synergies, but I think one of the best things you can do is actually the loadout here that I'm showing off. And that is a plasma gun and a heavy bolter. Now why? Why would you want to do that? And then a plasma pistol on your sergeants. That in a 20-man blob with a Castellan for sustained hits 1, and then potentially other buffs like, say, first rank fire, second rank fire, or take aim, or get a scout sentinel in there for daring recon and reroll 1s, is going to kill Space Marines. Space Marines are our most common opponent in the game, and so at most points in time. So with that, this is really effective at killing, and it's really effective at holding objectives. And really, that's the combo of the Guard, right? We want to hold objectives, we want to kill things. We're pretty decent at movement. You know, we're not the best army, but we're decent at it, and we can be effective, especially with these big blobs that are hard to chew through. And so this build right here is a great way to run your infantry squads. I talked about this a little bit in the Hades breaching drill video, so if you haven't checked that out, definitely do. And that's a great way to deep strike these and get them onto the battlefield safely into a position that you want them to be in to be able to take out that enemy unit. Great kind of like awesome option here. Then if you have a platoon command squad with a medic, you could give them a 6 up feel no pain. Once again, just a little more resilient, sticking around a little longer, just kind of annoying your opponent. But you may also want to take a grenade launcher. The reason why is a grenade launcher is our most versatile special weapon. It has 2 shooting options. It has frag, which is blast. It has 24-inch range, D3 attacks, but blast, so don't forget that. And then it has 4 up, ballistic skill. It has strength 4, no AP, 1 damage. Okay, so it's almost like a bolt gun, and it's not super effective, but with the blast, you may be able to get a bunch of wounds off on some kind of chaff infantry, right? Then there's the crack option, which is also 24-inch range, 1 shot, 4 ballistic skill, strength 9, -2 AP, D3 damage. This grenade launcher with the crack grenade option could damage vehicles. It could damage elites, it could damage monsters. So do keep that in mind. It is a great versatile weapon. With the random damage, not as reliable as your plasma gun, not as high of AP, but it's a great way for you to be able to get in there and maybe get those 3 wounds rather than 2 wounds, and you don't have to worry about hazardous. You don't have to worry about losing your plasma gunner on a roll of 1 after you finished your shooting. So the grenade launcher is a great little resilient kind of versatile option. Keep that in mind as well when you're building your lists. The other thing you could do is you could do the mortar. And right, we could do mortars and just set them in the backfield on a home objective, and then launch mortars at your opponent. Also not a bad option, and it's going to be fairly effective at clearing infantry also. It's in direct fire, so that can be kind of a really great way of being able to do that, and just being effective in your shooting. Now, don't forget with these heavy weapons, something to keep in mind is that they are ballistic skill 5, but they're heavy. So they're going to benefit from sitting still and then shooting. So you're not going to get your 4-ups to hit unless you do take aim, or unless you sit still with heavy. But that means also if you do take aim, increase your ballistic skill from 5 to 4, then have heavy, you're hitting on 3s. Then with indirect, you're back to 4s, unless you have a scout sentinel to ignore that negative modifier. If you do have a scout sentinel, and you're hitting on 3s with your mortar and re-rolling 1s, that gets pretty effective too in terms of indirect fire, and on a unit with a lot of saves, a lot of wounds, to be able to keep them in the game longer. So this is kind of a more resilient, but not as cost-effective mortar pit. And that's something that you can do. But also don't forget about the ballistic skill difference on your heavy weapons, like your las cannon and your heavy bolter. You're hitting on 5s unless you're sitting still or using orders. So that's something to keep in mind. They are meant to kind of just get trenched in there, you know, get down into an objective and then shoot off of it. So I would recommend kind of using these mostly as objective holders. They're really, that's where you're going to get your buff, right? You get them on an objective, your OC is so high anyways, then you could guarantee that with a platoon command squad. Your objective control is going to be through the roof, and your opponent's really going to have to chew through all 20 models before they're likely going to be able to pry that objective away from you. And then they're going to have a better save against shooting attacks. Remember, it's against shooting attacks, not melee. And so that's where I think they shine. I think they shine as a backfield unit, especially you get those heavy weapons, you set them up in a trench, you set them up on a line, you set them up in a defensive position, and then you shoot out. Or put them in a transport in 10-man squads and dump them out to hold objectives. Or you can do the 20-man squads, maybe with the Hades breaching drill, you deep strike them in, you capture that objective, and you hold it down really well, while also eliminating your opponent with these really great weapon options that you'll have access to in this unique unit. That's, like I said, kind of a bit of a legacy unit, because this is meant to catch all the older models ranges that we used to have. That's the only thing I am worried about. I'm not sure if the Infantry Squad are going to stick around, which makes me a little sad. It could be that when we get our 10th edition codex, we might not have them anymore. I really hope that's not the case, especially since Games Workshop have been doing made to orders on the old metal ranges. So I'm hoping that's their way of supporting legacy armies. And I think a lot of people would be upset if we lost the Infantry Squads. I know I would. I really love the Infantry Squad option. I'm glad we have this legacy option, and I think it's actually effective. I know everyone's like, oh, Krieg, oh, Cadian, oh, Cadian. But the Infantry Squad's good too. It has its place. Everything in the Guard Codex in terms of infantry has its place. Now, if you're curious about what Krieg or the Cadians do compared to the Infantry Squad, I have videos on that. Please go watch them and check them out. I do really recommend them. You can also check out my character reviews and how I talk about some of the synergies more in depth, and to be able to see what you do here. But that's it for today. I just really wanted to talk about how flexible this unit is. So many weapon options, so many different heavy weapons, so many different ways to field them even. Strategically, right? In transports, deep strike with a Hades breaching drill on your backfield objective, lobbing shots at your opponent. There's just lots of great ways that you can do this, and you have a decent amount of characters to kind of buff them. And so do keep that in mind. So that's it. Let me know if you all have any thoughts in the comments below. I always love the dialogue from you all. You're such wonderful people here on YouTube, so I really appreciate it. Let me know if I've missed anything. There's Leontis and there's Creed and there's other characters that can kind of come in and buff, but this is what generally I might recommend for the average build. So I'm not covering everything in the video. I'm just giving you my overall kind of best recommendations, and this is it. But do have great dialogue down below about what you all think about running this unit and some of the best synergies or ways to play them, and what you think, or what you think of the old model ranges too. This is a great way to have them in there, and they're so beautiful. I love these old models. So really fantastic. If you ever get your hands on them, they're so fun to paint, and you can magnetize them. My Valhallans are magnetized. I forgot to do my Vestroyans, but so I can transport them in my table war cases, and so they're, you just got to use bigger magnets on them. That's all. But definitely pick up a set, paint them up. They're beautiful models, and you'll have a lot of fun with them. So as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos if you are interested. I mentioned a few just a little bit ago. If you're interested in the clear movement trays, squad mark movement trays here that I magnetize my models to, there's a link down in the video description below where you can get 10% off these movement trays whenever you want them. So come back, use that code, and get your 10% off. It's a great way to support my channel, and it's also a great way to support a wonderful company who makes some great products. They make other stuff too besides movement trays. That's what I love most about them. So that's what I'm going to promote. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the infantry. They support the infantry. You can also check out Redgrass Games painting link I have below. I do use their wet palette and their paintbrushes and their painting handles when I paint all these models. So it's part of my regular hobby kit. But, as always, have fun wargaming, and remember, Cadia stands.